Okay, so this is the last talk of the afternoon. It's on common law, and we've got a variety of barristers here to tell you all about their practice. We're going to start with Hannah Wilson, who's from Henderson Chambers, and then Robert Harrap from 5 Paper is going to talk to you, followed by Sadie Proper from 39 Essex Street and Andrew Burns from Devereux. So I'll hand you straight over to Hannah. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Hannah Wilson. I'm a barrister at Henderson Chambers. I was called to the bar in 2005 and I am a member of the recruitment committee in Chambers. My route to the bar, I think, is similar to quite a few of the people that I've spoken to today, in that I did a non-law degree and then the GDL at City University. And I think that has quite a lot to do with why I ended up at the common law bar. Although I think the GDL gives you good grounding in the basic principles, basic legal principles, I didn't feel equipped at the end of that year to make a decision as to what I wanted to do with the rest of my career in terms of making a sort of firm choice and devoting myself solely to one area of law. So I thought I would apply to common law sets that did a broad range of work, and as a result of that I ended up at Henderson Chambers. We have particular expertise in product liability and health and safety work, but how we generally characterise ourselves is that we're a set that does work that deals with contracts and with torts. And my practice is primarily in personal injury and health and safety work, and I also do quite a lot of property work, and then I do general commercial work, general contractual and insurance disputes. And I would say that my work at the moment is sort of fairly evenly split between paperwork and court appearances. I think that the common law bar suits people who want some variation and some balance in their careers. I've already said, I've got an even split between being in chambers and doing paperwork, writing advices and drafting pleadings, and appearing in court. I think you're dealing with people most of the time. Personal injury, employment work are quite sort of require you to have good people skills, but you'll meet a diverse range of people as well, and you've got to be up for that, because you'll meet all sorts. You'll have commercial clients who, very professional, but you'll also be dealing with people who are perhaps new to the court experience, and you'll have to deal with them and manage them and their expectations. So you've got to be good at dealing with people. You've also got to be looking to have a career at the bar because you're into advocacy. I think the common law bar means that you will be in court, or having a career at the common law bar means that you will be in court quite often. You've also got to be someone who doesn't mind doing something that can be unpredictable. You've got to, I think, be quite flexible in your approach and be sanguine when you get a last-minute instruction to attend court the next day at 10 o'clock. You've got to be all right with travelling all around the country, going to various glamorous locations, beautiful tribunals and county courts. It's unlikely that you'll be spending your weeks in chambers on an sort of unbroken basis. You've got to be okay for sort of being in different places and being all over. And as I've said, I think you've got to be able to get on with people and be all right with dealing with different people from different walks of life. That was what I was going to say.
Great. Well, hello. My name is Robert Harrap from 5 Paper. I was a late starter to the bar. My first degree wasn't in law at all, but I went to university when I was 26, so quite a late starter. I did a languages degree first, and then when I was 30, wondering what the hell to do with my life, looking at my skills and my interests and sort of things I wanted to, the sort of life I wanted to have and the contribution I wanted to make to society, law came up as an idea. So I did the GDL at the College of Law and then went to bar school. Got my pupillage with 5 Paper, and they recruited me as a tenant. So I was called in 1997. So I've got 15 years under my belt. My practice now is predominantly property. Five Paper has a very good social housing team, and we do work for tenants, but most of our work is for landlords, social landlords, local authorities, and that kind of thing. And a lot of the work is antisocial behaviour, disrepair, all sorts of landlord and tenant issues. But we also do real property as well. So at the end of last year, I was in the Court of Appeal in an adverse possession claim, which was exciting for me, not terribly exciting for other people, but nice that I won in that case. But so most of my work is property, and most of that is social housing. But I also have a foot in the employment team. Through bar school, I did FRU. I'm sure everyone tells you how wonderful FRU is. It makes you feel that you really are an advocate, and it's worth fighting to get those cases under your belt. Because sitting on pupillage panels, when I hear people say they've signed up to do FRU, that's great, but if you haven't done any cases, it's not as impressive. So I would say, please make the effort to represent those people out there who need someone to be their spokesperson in the tribunal. It's a fantastic experience. So I carried on doing employment work throughout. So probably 35% of my practice is still employment, and I love going to tribunals to see the different, to have two practice areas. It's keeps me balanced, I think. Five Paper, though, we have 4 practice teams, so employment and property, but then commercial and family. And I think the combination of those, none of the teams are in competition. All of our teams want to grow and develop, and we're looking to recruit both from experienced practitioners, but also from our pupils at the bottom. One of the questions we've been asked to explain is what key skills and personal qualities you think are needed. And I was going to say flexibility, but I think with particularly in looking at the housing work that we do, we deal with you're dealing with people who are, whether you're representing the landlord or the tenant, you're often dealing with people whose homes are at risk, and you need to have a real awareness of the impact of the outcome of a case on somebody's life, and you can't just take a purely academic perspective on it. There are human issues at stake, and it's very important to be aware of that, regardless of which side of a particular case you're on. But anyway, so that's an introduction to me and an introduction to Five Paper. I'll hand over now to
Thank you, Robert.
Sadie.
Hello, I'm Sadie Proper. I'm currently practising from 39 Essex Street, currently practising, having moved in the last 2 years. So I'm someone who's moved at the bar, which makes me relatively unusual, but an increasing phenomenon that we're seeing more and more. My areas of practice now are predominantly personal injury, clinical negligence and public law work, in which I particularly focus on actions involving the police, dragging through into my practice at the bar some pre-bar experience that I had working for Thames Valley Police. So I just encourage you, by reference to my experience, to think about the ways in which you can bring through pre-existing skill sets into the areas of work that you might like to practice in. And I think that that's something that we can do very regularly in common law as distinct from other areas. Because of course on each occasion that you have interacted with someone in a quasi-confrontational manner, i.e. a commercial organisation, even the student loans companies I know causing problems for a lot of people at the moment, you're experiencing in that quasi-litigation process some of that which you'll experience on a macro basis when you're at the bar yourself. In terms of the areas of the cases that I am currently engaged in, as a common lawyer you will find that you will do the sublime and the ridiculous in equal measure. This week I think was asked to provide a defence in a case involving a major retailer where on our case a gentleman had simply failed to drive his van into our drive-through lane correctly. But equally at the moment I'm working on a major fraud case which is going into the Supreme Court in April, where we're analysing the inherent jurisdiction way back to the very origins of English canon law. So you see that really it's a practice area which gives you breadth both in terms of the legal challenges that you face, but also in terms of the human challenges that we face. And I think it's pertinent that both of the previous speakers have spoken to the qualities that you might need as a common lawyer, and I can only echo that which they've said already, but also emphasise perhaps that I think in particular the skills of a common lawyer involve being able to deal with people in the form of when they appear in the witness box, because as distinct from an area like public law, for example, where you may have a lot of advocacy over in the admin court, common lawyers are those who regularly and habitually deal with witnesses on the civil side. And in order, in my view, to be a good witness handler, what you need to do is you need to be a confident person, because you need to be able to put aside your anxieties in a situation of court work, to be able to reassure your witnesses and ensure that they perform as best as they can in the environment of the witness box, which is hugely challenging. And B, you also need to be empathetic. And I don't say that from reference to your own client, but you need to have a degree of empathy in order to be able to catch witnesses, which is ultimately what, when you're cross-examining them, you hope to be able to do. So I'd encourage you to delve within yourself effectively to see if you have that spirit of empathy that you will be able to bring into your practice, which will make you a better witness handler, in my view. The other thing which I think is very important in terms of the quality that you need as a common lawyer, which I think is probably a quality you need as any lawyer who appears regularly in a courtroom, is you need to have a quick thought process. Because whether you're in court dealing with an application or you're in court dealing with a 6-week trial, there will be moments in the courtroom where you have your rabbit in the headlight moment, and what you need to be able to do is, rather than subsume yourself in panic, to be able to think of how you're best going to be able to get your client out of that particular set of headlights into which you can see your case potentially falling, much to everyone's chagrin. In terms of career at the bar, I think it's quite important actually that those people who are coming to the bar appreciate that whilst there might be a degree of kudos associated with the profession, it's incredibly hard work. And I don't think that any practice area nowadays it will allow someone to escape from having to work hard. I think that as a common lawyer, success is there and available to you if you're willing to put the effort in. And I don't necessarily mean that that effort needs to be long hours. In particular, our set is very family focused. We have strict maternity and paternity guidelines, and we're remarkable in the sense that last year 4 of our new QCs, 3 of them were women, all three had families. So it's not necessarily hours at the coalface, but it's thinking cleverly about how best to use your time, being an efficient worker, and also thinking about how you can best develop your practice by way of self-marketing and self-promotion. So I'll hand on now to Andrew.
I'm going to start with a bit of an omission between you and me. I've done the commercial talk here for the last 2 or 3 years. I didn't read the email asking me to talk here very carefully. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to substitute common for commercial when I give this talk. I won't repeat what's been said so far. You will need the highest level of intellectual analysis and rigour. Don't kid yourself. We are at the bar because we're the best, and you need to be amongst those people. You must strive really to get a very high level of achievement, because the competition has always been ruthless and is ruthless today, and you will need to really stretch beyond your reach to make sure that your intellectual analysis is great. You need to be looking at your application forms now to make sure that you make the most of what you've done so far, and you need to be looking at what you're going to do in the next year to make sure that you have things that you can put on your OLPAS form or other application form which will show that you have met an intellectual challenge and you've overcome something that is a wow factor, something that is going to catch the eye of the pupillage committee. I'm the head of pupillage at Devereux, and I have been for a few years, and I've been a pupil supervisor for a while, and I've looked at probably 1,000 or more application forms over the last few years. You have to bear in mind that a good common law chambers is going to have several hundred application forms in a big pile. A barrister will be spending his or her time not working or billing, but instead looking at application forms. Part of the skill of a barrister is to be able to communicate effectively and efficiently and concisely something complicated in easy to understand language. You've got to think, how can I demonstrate that in my form in a way that is going to catch the eye of the person reading this, who may only give this form a few minutes? How can I set it out, and how can I achieve the content to be a really top form, but will make the most of what I've got? So, intellectual analysis and rigour. Commercial acumen, I was going to say. Well, common law acumen doesn't quite have the same ring to it. But you need to have a practical ability to think about what you've done at school, at university, in other jobs, volunteering, in other times of your life, that brings a bit of lateral thinking, a bit of outside, a bit of blue sky thinking into the problems that you're going to deal with at the bar. Because what your clients want to do is they don't want to know what the academic legal answer is to the problem. They don't want to know the same as that which your tutors want to know. If there is a clever way to sidestep the legal problem and find a solution, that's just as much our job. So think about, in your application forms again, talking about how you have solved problems and faced challenges in other aspects of your life, whether it be work or volunteering, whether it be at school, university or since. Practical common sense, it's been mentioned already, and don't undervalue it. There is no good, well, some chambers, some commercial chambers do very well with people who are very, very, very clever and have no common sense at all. And indeed, possibly in years and years gone by, the bar, you could prosper at the bar by being very, very clever and having no common sense at all. I don't think that's any more the best way to get into being the bar. I don't think it's the case that you can just do it by intellect alone. So I tell people to take their time. Go and do other things. Make good use of your time during holidays. Make good use of your time during gap years. Do other things, because that's the sort of thing that develops your general common sense and awareness of how the world works. Because frankly, we need to advise clients about how the world works just as much as we need to advise them about the Riot Damages Act 1886 and the careful provisions, which indeed I was advising clients about last year because the London riots happened, and I happened to be one of the few experts in the country on the Riot Damages Act 1886.
Put that on the gravestone.
After a fire and a riot at the Yarl's Wood Immigration Centre a few years ago, there was a big insurance claim which came from it, and I had the Statute of Winchester 1285 in my list of authorities, I'll have you know. I tell you what, I felt very pleased with myself that day. So there is the esoteric, there is the really complicated, there is the really digging into legal history or something like that, but there's also the practical common sense. Long hours have been mentioned. You might think you did long hours when you were a student, forget it. I mean, hours that you put in at the bar when you start off are very long indeed, and you need to be up for that challenge. You need to be able to work through the night and go back to court with 3/4 of an hour's sleep sometimes. You need to be able to really, really put that in. You don't have to do it all the time. It's not a macho culture where you have to be seen to be doing that all the time. It's pointless doing it all the time. You just need to do it when the case demands it, when the client needs it. Other times, you can just go off and sort around London for a day looking at art galleries because you've got no work. You can choose your lifestyle because you're self-employed. You put the hours in when you need to, and you take some time off when you need to. And finally, you need to love the sound of your own voice.
That's totally true.
Obviously, I don't love the sound of my own voice. I'm the exception that proves the rule. But you need to be somebody who is very confident in stepping out and speaking out in your home life, in the voluntary work you do, in other aspects of your work and career. Because you will find that it's that aspect of advocacy which makes the difference between being possibly a commercial lawyer and a common lawyer who goes out and has to quickly turn their hand to saying something impressive and persuasive and eye-catching and prepared in a short period of time. Preparation is everything, by the way. I prepared long and hard to give you this talk here. I wrote the notes that I made. I started when in fact, I hadn't even started when Hannah started talking. I started when Robert started talking, but this, again, is the exception. Normally, 90% of good advocacy is excellent preparation in advance. And so it's the long hours which help you to be an effective and indeed a persuasive advocate. Thanks for listening.